Hello, Year 11. Oliver has been in touch about some of the questions that he found challenging in the most recent past paper I asked you to do. So I'm going to go through 4 of the questions that he found challenging. And since nobody else has asked for any questions, well, you've missed this opportunity. So I'm going to be going through question 18, question 26, question 27, and question 28 in a little bit more detail. Reason being, a mark scheme, yeah, it does tell you the final answer, but even sometimes with the answer, you're not sure really how to do the question. So I'll read through each question, which you'll see I've set up on the screen, and I've also then got a visualizer where I can actually do some of the work solutions as to how I would do these questions if you still don't understand them. If you suddenly decide, oh yeah, I wish I'd asked the question, then do get in touch and I can always upload a second video if needed. Okay, so question 18 says Mo plays 30 games of chess. He won 18 of these games. What fraction of the games did he win? Give your answer in its simplest form. Now, I'm sure Oliver got part A right. It was probably part B that caused the difficulties. Let me just get my page in roughly the right spot. Okay, so for part A, he's won 18 out of 30. So that is just a fraction 18 out of 30. And if we want to simplify that, we can just see that we can divide both of those by 6. And dividing by 6 gives us the answer 3/5. So that is the answer to part A. It is 3/5. Let me just scroll down. Part B looks a little bit more challenging. It then says he played 20 more games. So remember, he's already played 30, but he's played 20 more. And he has won 64% of all his games. How many of the 20 games did he win? So there is a lot going on in this question in terms of getting the final answer correct. So let's think about this. He's played 20 more games. Well, at the start, he'd played 30 games, so 20 more means he has played 50 games in total. And he's won 64% of all of those. Well, we know that 64% means 64 out of 100. But it'd be better to have this as a fraction out of 50 instead. And I can do that by dividing the denominator by 2. So I can do the same to the numerator. So that would be 32 out of 50. So altogether, he has won 32 games. Now, in part A, he had already won 18 games. So it's asking you, how many of these new 20 games did he win? Well, if he's suddenly gone from 18 wins to 32 wins, then by subtracting those two numbers, we should be able to see how many games he's won out of the 20. And 32, take away 18, is 14 games. So that is the final answer to 18 part B. He had won 14 of the 20 games left. Okay, the next question that we are going to look at was question 26. I'll just quickly scroll down to question 26. So if you see any other questions flashing by that you wanted to ask about, feel free, get in touch. So question 26. Says, given that A times 60 equals B, work out the value of 4B divided by A. Now, there's several ways you can do this question, but probably the easiest way to do it is just to make up some numbers for A and B. So for question 26, if I know that A times 60 equals B, I'm going to make up some values for A and B that make this work. And I'm going to try and keep my answers as easy as possible because that might then help with the second part. So I'm just going to let A be 2. I could even make it be 1, but I'm going to make it be 2. If A is 2, well, 2 times 60 is 120. So that would make B have to be 120. So now I've got some numbers that work for A and B. And you could always check this with some other numbers, but it will work. I've then been asked to work out what 4B's divided by A is. And you can now see why I tried to keep the numbers quite easy. So 4B's, 4 120s is 480. And it's asking me to do 4B divided by A. So I need to do my 480 divided by the value that I've picked for A, which is 2. And 480 halved or divided by 2 is 240. So the answer to 26 is 240. Like I say, there are several other ways of doing that question, but that is by far the easiest. Moving on to question 27 rather. Yeah, looks nasty. It's all to do with knowing and manipulating your rules for indices. Okay? Because it says write all of this as a single power of 3. Okay, now there are 3 rules for indices which you could go and look up, but I'm just going to do the solution to this. So we've got 27 times 3 squared to the power of 7, and it says write it as a single power of 3. So 3 to some power is the same as that. Now I know that 27 is 3 times 3 times 3. So that is 3 cubed. I also know that 3 squared to the power of 7 means, I'm really glad that it says power of 7, I've got to write it out a lot. It means 3 squared times 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 3 squared. Yeah, you get my picture here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And each of those is 3 times 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 3. So altogether, and I'm not going to write out all of that, that would be 3 times 3. And if you counted up all the 3's, there would be 14 of them. Some of you might remember that when you multiply with powers, with the same base, you can add the powers. Okay? So if I put that all together, it is 3 to the power 3 times 3 to the power 14. So altogether, that is 3 to the power of 17. Again, I'm using one of the rules where you add the powers. So 3 to the power of 17. Okay, now that topic is indices or powers. So if you're looking to do some more questions on that topic, that's the kind of word that you need to look for, indices or powers. If you're not sure how to spell indices, it is spelt like that. Okay, moving on. I believe we've got one more question that Oliver asked for, so I'm going to do question 28. Okay, here are 2 solids. Cylinder, lovely. Hemisphere, volume. Let me guess, it's going to say the volume is the same. Or is it not? Oh, which solid has the greater volume? You must show working. Okay, is this the last question? No? Okay, but it is towards the end, and it means this question is hard. They've made it slightly easier because for a hemisphere, you are given the formula. Okay? But this is a non-calculator paper. And this is what causes the problems in this question. How do you do this without a calculator? Well, certainly you're going to need to know the formula for the volume of a cylinder. If you don't know that, you're going to struggle. Okay? But you might be thinking, pi 3.14. How can I do this question? Well, the key to this question is to not actually use 3.14, and it's to write your answers in terms of pi. If you do it that way, you will be able to figure out which has the greater volume. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to start with working out the volume of the cylinder. Now, if you don't know the formula for the volume of a cylinder, it is a prism. So it is the area of the cross-section, the area of the circle, times its height, which is 10. So the cylinder is, so this is question 28, pi times r squared times the height. Okay? So rather than write 3.14, I'm just going to write pi. I'm told in the question the radius is 4. So it is going to be 4 squared, radius squared, times the height, which is 10. Now, 4 squared is 16, so this becomes pi times 16 times 10. Now, if I want to write this in terms of pi, what I do is a little bit like algebra. I'd work out my 16 times 10, which is 160. And rather than write pi as 3.14, I just say that the answer is 160 lots of pi. So that is the volume of my cylinder. For the hemisphere, we are given the formula. So I'll put HS for hemisphere. And the formula was 2/3 pi r cubed. Okay, and we are given that the radius is 6. And again, you might be thinking, how can I do this without a calculator? So I'll try and show you. Okay, we have to do 2/3 times pi times 6 cubed. Now, there's a couple of different ways of doing this, but I think realistically the easiest for you is to leave the 2/3 as it is, leave the pi where it is, and try and work out what 6 cubed is in your head, which is 6 times 6 times 6. Now, if you can't do 6 cubed in your head, you could always do a little written calculation, because 6 times 6 is 36, and then you need to times that by another 6, and you could partition the 30 and the 6 and do it that way. But 6 times 6 times 6, when you get there, is 216. Okay, so how do I finish this off? How do I work out what the final answer to this is? Well, we need to do 2/3 of 216. Okay, and I will do this one as a written calculation. If I want to find 2/3 of something, I have to divide it by 3 to find 1/3, and then I'll times it by 2. So 3 divided by 2 is 0. Carry the 2 that remain. 3's into 21 is 7, and 3's into 6 is 2. So that would be 1/3 of 216, but I need 2/3, so I need to double that. 144 pi. So which has the biggest volume? Okay, and you can see this is why writing it in terms of pi is helpful. That's more pi's than that, so that volume is bigger. So the answer is the cylinder. So there we go, folks. Those are 4 solutions to the questions that were asked for. If you want more videos like this to help you out, or you just want some more work, I will be still posting work every Monday with something for you to try up until half term. So please feel free to engage in this work. But do keep in touch. I'm signing out for now, and goodbye.